I just started work on the red T-Rex styrofoam drawing. I have several tabs open on Edge, Microsoft Edge, which is the browser I use to go on the internet. I have at least 2 tabs showing me images of a T-Rex from Microsoft Bing. The plan is to try to get as realistic of a T-Rex as possible. I may or may not decide to put feathers on the T-Rex drawing. Some believe that either one. Some believe the T-Rex had feathers, while others believe it didn't. I'm inclined to believe that T-Rexes didn't have feathers since the T-Rexes were reptiles, and feathers seems to conflict against what a T-Rex is. Prior to me deciding to start work on the red T-Rex styrofoam drawing, I had spent the day gradually working on custom props designed to mimic window tint, as well as a custom curtain prop, so that I could put the curtain that appears in the front view scene appear during side view scenes within the scene involving the trio, which most likely for the time being I'm going to put at the beginning of the upcoming 99th Dan Hamming episode. Oh, this chicken is pretty good. At some point while doing this work on the new scene, I ended up having to make a copy of the raw video in order to make another in order to restore the original raw video file to the version that had that red screen scene with the original curtain prop, so I could then modify it to make it suitable for a side view. and mainly by at one point extending the curtain through making another custom prop. Through a combination of the snipping tool and Luna Pick. There was a point in making the side view curtain custom prop that I had to go into the eraser tool and remove bits of red from the transparent background tool, failing to get rid of as much of the red as I would have wanted. I typically use bright red whenever making custom props. I think Dad got up around 9 in the morning today, and I got up earlier. I had some coffee, and then I think starting at 11 in the morning, Dad and I went out to basically do some errands of ours on the road. Well, the first of which was some driving practice around the high school parking lot. In particular, Dad noticed a continued improvement in my control with the car. What's important to remember is to apply a gentle pressure to the brake before a turn and then a gentle pressure to the gas during a turn. And I'm doing better in trying to do that. Then later on there was some practice regarding parking without overlapping any additional spots in case the parking lot is either full or near full. In our case, the high school parking lot had just one gray car in it. So it was pretty much as good as it could get especially during a time in which school is in season. This car was somewhat close to a side, so we just did one of the usual turns a bit early during laps around a high school parking lot. Following this, for parking when the parking lot is near full and there's essentially just one spot remaining, you have to according to Dad, veer over to opposite to the intended parking spot in order to get a better angle to park. So you don't end up hitting any cars. Before that, during the laps, there was also practice with regular parking or empty parking. I've got the regular / empty parking down. After some practice, I was pretty much doing it perfectly. Much better than the last practice session. It's now the full parking when there's basically just one empty spot that I've got to work on. After that, Dad and I went to Sam's Diner for breakfast. Dad got his usual omelet with toast and what seemed like orange jelly to me. At one point, he gave me one of his pieces of toast with orange jelly spread on it, for which I thanked him. And before we even went out for the road trip or the errands, I uploaded the 4.5-minute footage of my time in the recovery area of a Greece American Red Cross donation center. To YouTube. And it was only some hours ago that I uploaded yesterday's my dinner video to YouTube. According to the channel dashboard, it was about 4.25 hours ago. The reason why Dad keeps making these light pizzas is because he has bread that he has to use before it goes to waste. I've noticed that this bread seems a bit harder than it was yesterday. And it doesn't seem stale to me or anything, it's just a bit harder and crunchier. I got my usual country Benedict, which is basically an Eggs Benedict, only you replace the hollandaise sauce with sausage gravy. And Dan and I both had our usual coffee, only I had my coffee plain, and Dad put half and half creamer into his coffee. I had about a few cups of coffee at the diner, which made me slightly hyper. I felt a bit wired, and I was kind of hoping to go to the bathroom at Dad's parents' place before starting the driving lessons on his mail route. It wasn't an emergency or anything, but it was enough that I was concerned that it would become an emergency while we did laps around his mail route. It ended up going pretty well. There ended up being some mild surprises, such as a car going down one road the other way. Basically, some mild things that are to be expected when going down live roads rather than a parking lot. I handled them pretty well with, I think, some help from my dad at times, if I'm remembering correctly. After that, it was off to visit Dad's parents. And for the most part, he chatted with his parents during the visit. And at another point, Dad, his mom, and I went upstairs to see a completed paint job by Uncle John of one of the rooms. I believe it was of Dad's old room. The stairs upstairs are somewhat steep and narrow. I can only imagine how bad it would be if you were to accidentally fall down them. They're padded stairs, but you still wouldn't want to fall down a flight of stairs like that. These are essentially Fig Newtons, only they're, I believe, a sort of generic brand of these cookies. Purchased from some kind of supermarket, I would imagine. Grandma Dearest, which is the nickname she created for me to call her by herself, or Dad's mom, gave us a partially full bag of these generic, what were they called? Fig bars, if I remember correctly. And just as I got in the car, Dad's car in the passenger seat, for us to go back home, and ever since I got back home, both Dad and I, it's essentially been until just now, pretty much, it was working on the 99th Dan Hamming episode. And now I've completed most of the work in setting up the car from each view, and that you could reasonably say that the trio lives in their car, in order to give this sort of idea that they're poor, essentially. Now that I've done that, I've hit a sort of writer's block in that I've got to figure out what I should have the trio say in order to show a combination of poverty and low self-esteem, in order to provide rationale for what, that way, what the trio end up doing later in the episode, it won't just look like it came out of nowhere. And that's the intended idea. And now I'm going to work on this red T-Rex styrofoam drawing in order to get the creative juices flowing. While I ultimately think about what to have the trio say. To set up the first scene, what will most likely be the new first scene of the 99th Dan Hamming episode. This is the magnesium water. In the morning, this same cup was used to give me my zinc water. And a paper cup was used to give me the olive oil water. And this was also used to give me the apple cider vinegar water. I believe that was given to me around 10 to 11 in the morning, right before Dad and I left, and didn't come back to the apartment unit until about 3:30 p.m. While visiting Dad's parents, there was a point in which Grandpa showed me some old photos that he had on his laptop though a significant portion of that was of photos of their house from years ago. Though it still pretty much looks the same from all those years ago. During the parking lot driving practice, Dad took a 2-minute video of me using my phone of me essentially doing laps counterclockwise around that high school parking lot. And he then later showed that video, had me show that 2-minute video to his parents when we visited them. In terms of the congregate game sword fight, early today I struggled within this new second area within the game called the Holy Lands, but now I'm doing considerably better since I got my third disciple for the first school of this second area, since I've given them the arming sword to equip. For each level the arming sword gets, you get plus 10 to your hit, plus a plus 2 hit for each level of mastery for the arming sword. I'm currently at level 133, and having the arming sword equipped as part of my efforts to master every single sword has helped me to hit my enemies within the game over and over again. It's helped quite a bit. It made it significantly easier for me to rise through the training levels. My current setup is the Brigandine armor, the Garon shield, and the arming sword. Though I still have the side sword, the Fracron, the scimitar, and the Koplash swords to master, aka get to at least level 60 familiarity. So I'm going to try to get Grandmaster Raymond's a level 115 Templars for this area earlier today have historically been the unit type with which I have struggled with, but I'm now doing considerably better against them, thus allowing me to have a reasonable chance of beating each type of enemy unit within the second area.